Hi there. All right, so we are going to get started on this new moon. So I move things around here. Um, we're going to get started on doing the feather wand. And if anybody shows up, then great. And if not, you guys will have this recording for later. So some of the things that you're going to need to make a feather wand are, one, a feather. And I'm going to use, a Turkey Vulture feather. You're also going to need an X-Acto knife. Having problems with words today. And you're going to need a needle. These are the tapestry needles, so they have a little bit of a point on them. Not quite the embroidery needles, but I have used those as well. I was going to use some tobacco, but I don't know if we're going to do that or not. You're going to need an awl of some kind. And you can use the X-Acto knife if you don't have one. And if you don't have that and you do have a leather punch, you can use that. But you're going to want it on the smallest setting. Hey, Kim. Hello.
Oh, look at me! I'm still in my pajamas. I didn't know you could see each other out here.
And we're recording.
No way!
So welcome.
I'm gonna put like a screen right here. Hi guys.
So I was going through all the things that you would need for your feather wand.
Yeah.
So a feather. You would need an awl or something like that. You're going to need an X-Acto blade, a tapestry needle, and it's a little sharper than an embroidery needle. And if you don't have an awl, but you do have a leather punch, just set it on the smallest setting. You're going to need some scissors. I said you might need some tobacco in the easing, but I don't know that we're going to use that. So, and then you'll need a piece of leather of some sort. Use it. One that's soft is usually much, much better than, say, like a cowhide that's a little hard. You won't want that. And then something that you can actually punch on. And some sinew. So the first thing that we're going to do is work on the feather. And you're going to need your X-Acto knife for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut just a little slit in the shaft down here. So let me do that real quick. Sometimes some of the shafts are really tight or are really hard, like fingernail, and some are not. So I'm just going to make a little slit here. And what I want to do, I don't think you can see that, but what I've done is I've slid it from here to here. Okay? And I'm going to cut just a little straight piece, a really thin piece of leather. Really, really thin. So this was explained to me as feeding the feather. So it's like feeding the spirit of the feather. So there's my little strip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this into the shaft. So this does take a little bit of doing, getting this in here, and I've had way too much coffee. So let me see if I can get this in here. I use my nails sometimes to split the shaft open, or I can also use the awl to kind of work this piece of leather into the shaft. Try not to split the shaft too much. There it goes. Okay. Yes, there we go. So this again is to feed the feather, the spirit of the feather. Oh, looks like I have a little bit of a split on the other side, so I need to be careful of that. Okay, so my leather is now in the shaft. The other thing that you can do is put a little bit of tobacco in there, and actually I may do that just a little bit. You can also put a crystal in there. You can also make a small red medicine bundle and stick that in there as well. So I have a little bit of tobacco in there, plus my little piece of leather. And now we are going to smudge everything, which we really should have done before. And I did before we started this. This is just sage, and it's what I usually use. Don't burn my feather. Okay, so you want to smudge the feather, your tool, both sides, and up and down. And you also want to smudge your tools because you're working on a sacred object. I don't know that I'll use this, but might as well smudge it anyway. And lastly, the piece of leather that we're going to use. Okay. So I'm going to get out my little piece of sinew. And actually, this is really thick. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to split this. And I just split it with my nail and then just start pulling it apart. And it will naturally split. Then you can hold one side and just split it all the way down. Sometimes I stick this under my foot or under my knee to split this because it likes to wrap up on itself. Okay, so we're good here. Move that over there. And I have a really thin piece. Usually sinew will split into 4s or 6. Mine usually splits in the 6th, but so you see that it's much thinner than what I had before. So we're going to set that aside. And we're going to get our piece of leather and our feather. And this is a pretty big feather shaft. So what I want to do is put the leather like right up at the very edge of where the soft feathers begin. And I'm going to put it right on the edge. So you can see that, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to roll the feather until it comes to the next. So if you can see that right there. So that's, and it's going to be really tight. So pull, because especially a soft leather is going to stretch. So go ahead and pull that super tight. So there's your mark right there. And I didn't say that you needed a pen, but you kind of do. Let me mark this here. And I want to make sure that it's kind of marked all the way down. And where I want it to end. So now I've just marked my leather. And you can see, that's how wide the circumference of the shaft is. Comes down to here, and then I'm going to cut it across. So now I'm going to actually cut this piece. Try not to pull it when you're cutting because you want it to be pretty straight if you can. Okay, so I've cut my little piece of leather for the shaft. And don't worry about the marks, those are going to go on the inside anyway. So I'm going to test it. I'm going to put my feather in the center here, and I'm going to pull this around to the other side. So like that. Okay, and you see that it, and actually I may have this upside down. There we go, okay. So there you go. You can see that it's gonna be super tight around the feather, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the awl, and I'm going to punch holes down each side. So down this side and down this side. And what I want are holes pretty much opposite of each other, all the way down, and they're gonna be about 1/4 inch apart. So let me do that really quick. It doesn't have to be, oh, and you want it to be, well, on this piece, it's probably gonna be about 1/8 of an inch in. So I just made a hole right there. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side so that they're even. You can actually measure it out if you want to. You can put, you can use your pen and put holes all the way down. And like I said, you want them about 1/4 inch apart. Kind of make it so you can see them. You want it about like 1/8 of an inch in, and you're gonna do it all the way down the length of your piece of leather. And sometimes I do it like all the way down one side and then go to the other side. So if they're not even, don't worry about it. And you may need to make them a little tighter as you go down because the shaft's going to get a little bit smaller. There are some leather needles that you can use, and those are actually very sharp, and you don't have to punch holes. So you can do it that way as well. You can use a piece of cardboard if you don't have like a leather mat that you can use your awl with. And there are such things as leather awls as well. This is not, I think this is actually a paper awl, but I've been using it for years. Okay, so I'm all the way down. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I guess you can a little bit. I'm all the way down one side, so now I'm going to do the other side and try and make them as even as possible. All right, we're almost there. And they're pretty close to opposite of each other. And the last one here. Okay, so now I have holes all the way down both sides, okay? And I'm going to put this, make sure, I have it the right way. Put the feather right here in the center again. I don't think it really matters which side you do. I mean, you can wrap it to the back if you want, like that. And I am going to grab one of my needles, and I'm going to try and thread. I don't have an actual needle threader, but you can always use a needle threader if you can't see it. I'm just going to attempt because these are big eyes. So, oh, I got it. All right. So you want it kind of like this so that, you have a little bit and then the rest of it, because you really only need one strand. You don't need it to be super thick with 2 strands. And I'm going to put my feather here. I'm going to put it through the front And again, it doesn't really, oops, now I gotta find the hole here. Oh, hold on a second. Sometimes your holes disappear. So, oh, there we go. It's there somewhere. There we go. So you may need to actually push the needle through the hole so that you can see it, and then come through the other side, the front side. Okay, and I've got it on my feather again, and I've got the needle going through, and I am going to pull it not quite all the way. So there's about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inches, something like that left. And I'm actually going to tuck that inside on the side. So, oops, like that. And it is like going down the inside by the shaft. Okay, and I'm going to go out the other side on the hole. This is the hardest one. And again, can't see the hole. So if you can't see the hole, come back in and make another one. And sometimes I pick up the leather and push the awl through a little bit more so that I can actually see the hole. Okay, there we go. I know there's like holding a lot of things right now. Okay, so now I have like this little hoop through both sides of the leather. And I'm gonna make sure that this is sitting around the feather. And I'm holding on to this little tail on the inside with my thumb. So like that. Okay, and I'm going to pull so that the leather comes tight around the, oh, that doesn't look right. Hold on a second. I'm gonna pull that through. Actually, I'm gonna go out the other way and I'm gonna make a knot. Just, I change the things up when I do leather crafts. So go ahead and knot your sinew. I didn't like the way that looked, so I am going to go out. I'm going to come in, no, go out the other way. Okay, so now, all right, I'm redoing this. So now I have the little tail is on the inside, and I'm going to come around to this side and come in the front side of the other side of the leather. Okay, here we go. There we go. That looks better. Make sure that little tail is tucked in inside the leather. Oops. Okay, so now little tail, which is right here, is tucked inside the leather, and when I pull this, it comes together. So now I'm going to go over to the next hole, which I can actually see this one. And I am going to poke my needle through that hole. And this is the crisscross. Okay. So it's coming from the inside of this hole over here and going to the outside of this piece of leather. And I'm going to pull that. And I'm going to go out the next hole on the other side. maybe. There we go. Sometimes the leather is really tight or really loose. Okay, so I have now, slide that back up where it needs to go. I've pulled it tight and it's going across. So now I'm going to do the same thing again, go over to the other side, hook my needle through that hole. And you can do this however you want. This is not like a hard and fast rule. Usually when I'm doing this, if I'm not showing somebody how to do it, I'm actually singing and, you know, talking to the feather. Okay. Pulling that. Going over to the hole over here. Again, I'm just crisscrossing. And if you need to, poke another hole. I can see the hole, I just can't get the needle through it. Yeah, that's easier. Okay, and I'm gonna do it again over to the other side. And I'm gonna do this all the way down the shaft. Having problems with one of the holes. I'm using deer hide right here because that's what I had. Okay, this is what it looks like. Hold on a second, let me pull the needle back out a little bit. When I'm going through, here's where I'm coming from over here, and then I come over to this side and push the needle through, and it's going through the hole that's on this side and over to the other side underneath. And I want it, the hoop, to be on the outside, like that. Okay. And I'm going to do this all the way down the shaft, which will close up the wound, so to speak, that we made when we put the other little string of leather in. Okay. Well, these holes are just not done very well. And you do want to do this on your feather so that you can pull it as tight as need be. And keep it as straight as you possibly can going down. I don't know if you guys can see that. Keep it as straight as you can going down. And it looks like I'm just going to have to poke holes all the way back down again, so that's all right. So that I can get my needle through. And actually what we're going to do after I get all the way down here is go back up so that you get that crisscross. So the first ones, the first hole pokings are going to be the most difficult. Holding it tight. Oops. So this will go much faster if I do it this way. There we go. I'm almost done. I have about 4 more holes on each side to go through, and then I'm going to go back up the other way. So I'm getting kind of close to the bottom, so I want to make sure that this little tail stays where it is and doesn't get caught up in the leather sheath. I guess that's what it's called. Don't be afraid to poke new holes if you need to get the needle through. Deer hide, elk hide, the ones that are super soft. Oops, making a mess here. The ones that are super soft tend to be a little bit more difficult to push a needle through. And it also depends on how they're tanned. The soft tans are very different than, say, what Nissa is doing for her rattles. Okay, I'm getting there. Sometimes you have to move the leather where you need it to go instead of, just letting it fall wherever it may. Poke some of these holes so I can just whip out these last 3 stitches. And deer hide can be very, very tough, especially when it's tanned like this. There we go. All right, so now I have my holes. And you can always do this ahead of time so that it doesn't take you as long. There we go. That's much better. So I'm coming to the end here. I've got my sinew all wrapped up around my tools, as you can hear. All right. And I have 2 more sides to do. Okay. And I'm doing this, I'm also moving the leather a little bit so that I have this very straight, or at least as close to straight as you can. And I am down to the last hole. And so that was the last hole going down. So now I'm going to go back up. So I'm down here on this last hole right here, and I'm going to go up here. So, and actually, no, I'm going to go straight across first and make just a straight across stitch. So it closes up this bottom part that is not quite on the shaft. There we go. Okay, so I just went straight across from here to here. Now I'm going to go up, and this will make the second cross. And since the holes are already big enough, this won't take very long. So I don't know if you can see this, but it went from over here to up here. And I'm going to continue to move up the same little shaft here so that I'm making crisscrosses all the way up. Just going to the next hole. Again, the holes are going to be big enough now that you're not going to have any problems getting the needle through. Oops. Just pull it tight when you get up there. There we go. And just keep going. Next one up, next one up. Sometimes you can get it caught on, like you can't get the needle through because it's caught on a piece of sinew. Just keep moving it, move the needle around like this, and you'll be able to get through. It's almost there. There we go. Come on. Sometimes it's just stubborn. Just like we can be sometimes. Okay, and I'm going to pull them tight. Pull the stitches tight as you can each time you move up or down for that matter. Just make sure it's like super tight, like right up against the shaft of the feather. And I am almost there. And again, I'm straightening out the leather so that it all sits straight. Where am I? Okay. The needle, when it goes through, should go like right up against the shaft. You should be able to feel that. Some of mine do, some of mine don't, so just to let you know. I am almost done. And the last one. Now you can also, when you're doing this, thread beads, like tiny seed beads, so that you have a bead row all the way down. That's kind of cool. So now I'm at the end, and I'm gonna go through straight through. It's like this at the top. And I'm actually going to either come up or down so that I'm gonna keep a knot. So this is tied off. And I'm gonna do that twice. Okay, so now it's tied off. It's straight up and down. I'm doing this on the back side of the shaft, and I also have my little tail right here. You can do a couple of things now. You can either wrap around the front, you know, like this. Make it super tight all the way down. and then back up again so that you're making crisscrosses all the way up, which looks kind of cool. Again, you could add beads here. You can add other feathers. The only thing that I would have you keep in mind is that if you're going to be using this for feather doctoring, you kind of don't want too much on here because you don't want it like dangling down into your client or your patient's face or whatever. The tail is about as much as I usually do on something that I'm actually going to use for feather doctoring. So I'm at the back again, and I've laced it sort of all the way up just by wrapping the sinew around. So I'm going to wrap it around one more time like that. I'm kind of wrapping it around my hand, and I'm going to, oops, I completely missed that. It came out from, oh, there we go. Come on. I'm trying to hold this tight. There we go. And I'm going to slip this through so that there is a knot on my wrap. And I'm going to pull it as tight as I can, and I'm going to do that again, just so it stays together. And we're almost there. Okay. That worked, yeah. And I'm going to pull that tight. And try and pull it tight to the back so that, oops, something happened here. There we go. So now I just have it laced. And you can cut your sinew. And sinew is waxy. So I have this little tail sticking out right here. So I'm just going to wrap that around my wrap. Oops, I'm undoing it somehow. Wow, that didn't work at all, did it? Somehow my knot came undone. So I am re-knotting. There we go. That's better. And I'm going to cut that little tail off again and just stick it down. So this is what that's what it looks like. And here's what the back looks like. I'm trying to keep the light from my window off of it. So that I went zigzag all the way down, zigzag all the way back up, and then I wrapped it. This is the little tail. Oops, little cat hairs. And this is a Turkey Vulture feather, so I will be using this for feather doctoring. And that's it. That's how you make a feather wand. And like I said, you could put other things on here if you're actually not going to be using it for feather doctoring, or if you want to add just a little extra sparkle to it, if you are going to be using it for something else, like if you're going to be using it for grounding energy, you might want to put garnet or obsidian down, little beads down here as you're working. That won't get in the way. It's if you have a lot of tassels or things hanging off of it that it starts getting to be a problem with your clients. So there you go. Happy feather making. You guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can email me, Facebook me, whatever you need. And I will see you guys soon. Happy new moon in April. And I'll have the May e-zine for you in a few days. Happy day. Bye.